Every major sports league in the US has at least one Canadian team. So why doesn't the NFL? Canada has the market and resources to support an NFL team, so why hasn't there been one yet? Stick around to find out why. Hey you, yes you, are you one of the 99% of viewers that are not subscribed to our channel? If so, scroll down and hit the subscribe button. When you're down there, be sure to also like this video. Now let's get back to this video. The CFL, also known as the Canadian Football League, currently has 9 teams. They are located in Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, Hamilton, Toronto, Ottawa, and Montreal. If the NFL were to try to expand into Canada, it would more than likely happen in one of those cities. This competition is something the NFL might not want to deal with. Yes, the NFL are the big dogs on the block in the US, and in terms of the biggest league probably in the world, especially monetarily, having to spend billions of dollars to enter a market through creating stadiums, marketing, and convincing players to head to a different country with different tax laws and potentially other legal issues, it might just be too much of a burden to handle, especially with the level of competition that the CFL already holds. Another aspect of this is the first city that would probably have an NFL team in Canada would be Toronto. From 2008 to 2013, the Buffalo Bills played 6 of their home games during that stretch, 1 per year, in Toronto. The reception initially was well received with over 50,000 in attendance for the first 4 of the 6 years, but in year 5 it was only 41,000, and in year 6 it was just under 39,000. The concern is, would there even be a market to sustain NFL teams, again with the competition of the CFL already there? The other part of it, especially with Toronto and even Vancouver, is you're so close to NFL teams already. Can the market sustain teams bidding for the same market? Vancouver already has the Seahawks, and Toronto has the Bills. Can the Bills even sustain their fan base if it's being split by Toronto? They do it for hockey already, but would it be able to be done for football? Again, reiterating the fact that the CFL has teams already that already split the fan base of over 30 million Canadians. By the NFL potentially entering into the Canadian market, it might bring about legal and antitrust issues. Back in 1974, there was proposed legal action in the Parliament of Canada called the Canadian Football Act. It was also known as an act respecting Canadian professional football. This act was proposed in April 1974, designed to give a government-protected monopoly over professional football in Canada to the Canadian Football League. Although it was never signed into law, the move by the government compelled the World Football League's Toronto Northmen to move to the United States and rename themselves as the Memphis Southmen. If the NFL were to start potentially expanding into Canada, this act might be brought up again in Parliament by the Canadian government and the representatives of Canada to potentially enact a similar act as this one was proposed. By doing so, the NFL might have its hands tied with legal issues, which again might cost millions or billions of dollars. Is that worth it for the NFL? Probably not. And if the act were to pass, if it were proposed again, that would mean the NFL, if it did have teams in Canada at the time, would then have to find relocation targets for those teams or to shut those teams down, which again would cost millions and potentially billions of dollars, because they would have to again build $1 million or $1 billion stadium just right off the bat, not even including relocation costs and more. And this would obviously take years to set up and go through. It would take years to set up a team or teams in Canada. It would take years to have this act pass. And then if this act were to pass, it would take years to either relocate or shut down the teams. All of this the NFL probably doesn't want to have its hands full of, because then not only would it take money out of their pockets, especially the owners, which the owners obviously love money, but it would also take years away from potential expansion and growth of its current teams and potential other relocation targets or expansion targets that the NFL has been looking at, aka Mexico City and Europe. Before the 2008 to 2013 Buffalo Bills one-game-a-year series, it was actually speculated in 2007 that a similar act would develop if the NFL attempted to expand to Toronto and thus threaten the Canadian League's existence, or the CFL. Such an act would likely still allow for an NFL team team to play in Canada in an NFL preseason game and the CFL's offseason, thus allowing for a Canadian city to host the Super Bowl if the NFL decided to host their premier event in a stadium far from an NFL city. Obviously, that would also include like Pro Bowls and potentially like the NFL draft and whatnot. So to sum it up, there's really 4 different reasons why the NFL may not expand into Canada. The first is competition with the Canadian Football League. The second is money, as in they would probably need millions or billions of dollars per team, and that matters because the third reason would be the Canadian Football Act. If the Canadian government or parliament doesn't want the NFL to be there, they're not going to want to be there, which means they're not going to spend millions or billions of dollars to move a team or to expand there. And then the fourth is time, like we mentioned before. It would take time to make a team. It would probably take, multiple years to create the team, the stadium, etc. And then you'd have the time that they would have to do legal aspects with the Canadian Football Acts. And then if that did or did not go through, obviously if it did go through, the team would still be playing by then or start playing by then. If it didn't go through, you have to have time to decide if you're going to shut it down or relocate it. So this whole process could take a decade before a team even starts to play in Canada for the NFL. This whole scenario could also be an issue with the Canadian Football League and XFL potential merger, which was discussed last year in 2022, and we'll discuss in a different video. But the likelihood that the NFL is going to expand into Canada at the current moment is probably a no-go, especially with different markets that they're currently penetrating in Europe specifically, and then also Mexico City. But there still is that opportunity to still do international games, again, like they do with Europe currently and Mexico City. Do you think the NFL should expand into Canada? If so, which cities do you think they should expand to Canada with? And if not Canada, which other cities or potentially countries do you think the NFL should expand to? We'd love to know your thoughts on this subject. Hit the like button down below. If you're not subscribed yet, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching.